Good morning, Carol. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, Anthony. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining. I want to make sure to give you a quick intro to my audience to make sure they know who you are. I found you. The claim to fame that I found you through was that you are one of the founders of the Elder Orphan Facebook group, which I think is now in the tens of thousands, if not more, of users. You're also a solo aging advisor and advocate, and you'll soon be publishing your book, Solo and Smart, coming out next year, I believe. And you also have, wow, you have a lot of things going on. You have your blog at carolmarak.com, as well as your YouTube channel, which I'm a big fan of, Solo and Smart. So, Carol, thank you so much for joining.
Well, thank you, Anthony. That was a great introduction, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with your audience this morning.
Can we start off by, I would love to learn a little bit more. I mean, there's some topics that I emailed you about that I'd like to cover, but I do want to learn a little bit more about the Facebook group, which is kind of your claim to fame. At least that's what Google says. Can you tell me a little bit
Oh,
about how that started and where it's at now?
absolutely. Thank you. I was a family caregiver for both my parents. My sisters and I took care of my mom and dad. Mother lived with several chronic illnesses, and my dad lived with Alzheimer's disease.
Mm.
So I can tell you that their care and their needs took 100% almost of all of our time. And that was three daughters. And so when they passed, it really hit me hard. I thought, oh my, I was reminiscing the needs that my parents had. I was just thinking back of, the times what we did for them and the special times we spent with them. And then it occurred to me, oh my God, that was a lot of work. Who's going to do all that for me? Because I am not married, nor do I have a partner or children. So I don't have any daughters or sons to rely on like mom and dad did. And knowing the amount of care they required, I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So that is when I started planning my future. And at the same time, I launched, well, pretty close to the same time, I launched a Facebook group because I wanted to know how many others are there, at least nationwide, that consider themselves and who identify with the term elder orphan, or I should say aging alone. And so I launched the group and I started reaching out to different news publications and really received quite a bit of press. And so from that, the group, the Facebook group started to get quite a few members who wanted to join. And I thought, oh my gosh, maybe there are more of us than I thought. And so that's how the group started. And, and through research, through looking at the data on the U.S. Census, it occurred to me, my God, there are a lot of people, because back in 2010, the U.S. Census says 27% of the individuals 65 and older live alone. And that number is expected to grow in the 2020 census to at least 31% of the individuals 65 and older. So that's a lot of people.
So I'm going to confess, I don't actually use Facebook. And even if I did, I don't think I'm eligible to join your group. So what goes on in there? Is it just different buckets of discussions? Are you exchanging ideas? What's that environment like for anyone who's interested in joining? For any of my
Oh,
listeners?
sure, absolutely. Well, the criteria to join, you must be 55 and older, a widow, single, divorced. Perhaps you have children. That's okay. I think that's fine. it's just because most of us who do have children, the kids live far away, right? So they're not next door or even in the same city. And that to me is aging alone. And, or maybe even, I'll stop it at that. But, we're a very resourceful group. I mean, think about it. We're solo agers. We've spent a lot of time on our own. We've taken care of ourselves. We were responsible for housing, our mortgages, our transportation, all of our bills. We never had, most of us, at least at some point in our lives now that we're aging alone, we don't have anyone to rely on, so we depend solely on ourselves. And I can tell you that puts us in a position of being very wise. We have, and that's what surprises me about the group. We are very resourceful. So we have discussions about any type of topic around aging alone. I am the main administrator, and we have moderators, and we do not allow politics. So that's a big no-no.
That's good.
However, everything else is a go. You know, we can talk about everything. And when members do ask questions, it's astonishing the wisdom that people or the members have. And we'll get oftentimes in a discussion, especially if a person is having an issue or a concern and they need something solved, then they'll post the question, and I bet they'll likely get up to 400 comments.
Wow.
Of advice. You know, people are just giving advice and tips, and this is what happened to me, and this is how I handle it. This is what I suggest you do. So it's quite resourceful for anyone. And what's remarkable and really significant about joining a group like this is because we have no one, and that's one of the biggest issues that we have as a solo ager, is we have no one to discuss medical decisions or financial decisions, and as far as I'm concerned, any other decision. I mean, any other type of issue that we are faced with. So it's a great resource for that purpose.
Why did you choose Facebook? So the reason I ask is because my light research has indicated that it's actually not one of the more heavily used social media platforms for 65 and older, at least. So I wonder, have you ever considered expanding it to other social media platforms? Or is that something that you've thought about at all?
I'd love to learn what other platforms are more attractive to seniors. Can you name a few? Or
in terms of usage, YouTube is high up there, but it doesn't seem to have the tools for community building that you would probably need. So
right.
I don't really know what the answer is. I was just curious.
Oh, well, I used Facebook because it was at the time when I launched the group in 2016, it was, I think, 65%. I was doing research, and I think it was from the Pew Research said that 65% or 70% of the individual older 50 plus group used Facebook. I think that's what the numbers was, and it was the most popular at the time. I don't know of another. And
it's hard to argue with your results.
Yeah, exactly. So, and plus it's free, right? Yep. And but I had hoped to convert that into another platform. Maybe, perhaps that is down the road. I don't know. But right now, I'm happy where we are because I've been so busy with the book for the past 2 years that it hasn't been a priority.
Very good. One last question, if you don't mind, on the Facebook group before we move on to some of these topics.
Sure.
Does it, again, this is for my audience, does it break out at all into maybe cities versus suburbs or New York City in particular? And I only ask because I think some of my audience's issues would be different from, say, I'm about to lose my driver's license, how will I get around? That's really not an issue in Manhattan. Does that make sense?
Right. Oh, absolutely. absolutely. As a matter of fact, we have a subgroup in Manhattan.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
Yes. So, yeah, we have, I think we have close to 35 subgroups, that breaks out from the main group. And Manhattan's one. We have one in Austin, Dallas. I run one here in Dallas. And there's one in the Bay Area, in San Diego, Denver, I believe. So other places. I can't name them all off the top of my head.
So I'm going to make sure that we include a link to that in the description to this show,
Oh, sure.
just for anyone who's listening who's interested in learning more. It sounds like an excellent resource just to bounce ideas off each other and so forth. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, Carol, let me jump into some of these questions I really wanted to talk to you about. Let's start off with the fear of aging alone. That's out there. I mean, a lot of folks have that sort of a predisposition that it's something to be scared of. But can you tell me maybe what are some of the real risks of aging alone versus things that you might be worried about, but that aren't as daunting as they might seem, if that makes sense?
Oh, gosh. Unfortunately, you really have to. For me, I learned to shift my mindset, because if you focus on the problems and the fear and all the potential issues that you could likely face alone as you grow older, you would live in constant fear. You would never leave your home. So that's really what my book is about, is how do you shift out of seeing yourself as being alone. I mean, think about it. We have close to, I'm going to say right now, we probably have close to 22 million individuals who are 65 and older across the nation who are in the same predicament as we are. Now, if you think about, well, I'm all alone, yes, that's very fearful. I mean, anyone would be scared thinking that. But instead, if you flip that to, oh my gosh, there's 22 million of us here in the U.S. I wonder how we could connect. I wonder if there's someone on my block I could connect with, or in my neighborhood, or in the same city. And the answer to that is yes, there are. So, however, if you stay in the negative mindset, I call it negative, it's a fearful mindset, I should say, that you're alone, the risks are great for early death is one, for depression, for exacerbating your current chronic illnesses, and for isolation and loneliness. I mean, think about it. How can you thrive with those types of potential risks? You can't. You don't.
I love how I want to pull it back full circle to your first statement that it really all does start in between your ears and in your head. And that's an excellent answer. That makes me really, really want to read your book when it comes out.
Good.
Very good. So you recently talked about building a family of choice, which I think is a great phrasing, by the way. So can you tell us what you mean by a family of choice, and why it can be important for folks in our situation?
Absolutely. And I can only come from my perspective. When my parents died and I got the aha moment that I am alone, I am aging alone, and will likely have to rely on myself, I knew immediately I could not be or live in a single family residence that was isolated from a larger community. And this is all for me. Everyone is different. Even if you do live in the suburbs and you do live in a single family residence, There is no reason why we cannot connect with our neighbors. But for what it takes, Anthony, it takes effort. And it takes a shifting of mindset that, yes, I can do this. It's as simple as that. It may feel awkward at first, and it may require some work at it. You know, I remember 5-6 years ago, I was going to a life coach. And in one of our sessions, because I felt I was feeling so isolated, she said, so how often are you communicating with strangers, with people you've never met, just to reach out to them and just to feel like you're starting to connect? So she gave me an exercise. She said, what I want you to do is when you go to the market, to a store, to what have you, I want you to start making eye contact with the clerk, the person who is checking you out at the checkout, checkout cashier. And she said, I want you to just make eye contact with that person and ask them, how are you today? And so I started doing that. And then I kind of expanded to people I passed in the parking lot, on my walks, wherever I was, it didn't matter. I started making eye contact, smiling, and asking how that person was doing. And so from that, I started to gain more and more confidence about feeling connected with the outside world, with anyone. It didn't matter who they were. And now I talk to just about everyone. So I feel very connected. And for me, I really focus on making social connections and putting myself out there in networking groups, in faith organizations, in senior centers, wherever I go. Even here where I live, I talk to my neighbors all the time. Well, not all the time, because I don't see them all the time. However, when I do see them, I strike up a conversation, because I do not want to live isolated, alone, and in an unfriendly world.
Yeah, I like your another way of describing your approach, if I may, would be to make sure that you have either systems or habits that over time will benefit you. And it sounds like you really have a couple of those going on for you in terms of your social approach. It's a really great approach, I think.
I like that. I like those. Yes. Yeah. And that's what my book is about, is setting up a strategy and teaching people how to switch their habits. Yeah. Exactly. And how to set up a strategy and to follow it. And I encourage people to just take it a day at a time. And believe me, you're not going to see changes in a week. Yep. And possibly not even in a month. However, I can guarantee you are in 2-3 months. It took me 7 years to really create the life of where I am today. Wow. And I feel like I'm thriving. So it takes time. So be patient and loving and have compassion for yourself.
I appreciate that personal anecdote for the perspective, just so folks understand that, it's a long game. It's not, any it's not the same thing, but any get quick rich kind of things usually don't work out well. You need to have long-term strategies for sure. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So I'd love to sort of wrap up our conversation on the most positive note possible. And I'd love for you to share what you believe are the biggest advantages of living alone or aging alone, because we've kind of focused on fear and social, risk of social isolation. I want to make sure that we reinforce some of the positives and some of the great parts of being independent. Yeah.
Yes. Well, before we do that, did I answer your question about family of choice?
Oh, you certainly answered, some of the best strategies. Is there something you'd like to add? Yeah.
Just open your heart and you get to know your neighbors, go outside, start talking to people. And if you have when you have a friendly, open attitude, you will attract people. You will start to attract people who will want to be in your circle of family or your circle of friends.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. So, Carol, what are some of the advantages of aging alone? There's plenty of upside there. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I love living alone. I've been married before, and I'm happiest when I'm alone. Maybe I've gotten so used to it. I've adapted to it. I put in place strategies that have helped me appreciate my life just the way it is. And what I see as the biggest reward of aging alone is that you have so much time to create a life that you want to live and create a passion of either giving back to someone, making a difference in this world, or focusing on a passion or something that you love doing. That's the biggest advantage, is that you have the time, energy to thrive and to make the world a better place.
That sounds,
if you want,
so like idealistic. So ideal, excuse me, not idealistic.
Well, it is. It is. I mean, I feel like I'm making a huge difference in people's lives, and believe me, I am no one special. I'm not special in terms of having a lot of money or being well known or have created anything incredible. I'm just a simple person who is I'm very common. I'm making a huge difference in a lot of people's lives. And I am so grateful for having the opportunity to do that. And I think each of us, if we are aging alone, we can take that, we have that power within us. And you don't have to make a huge difference in other people's lives. All it takes is either one person, or maybe there is a skill or a creative venture that you have. Maybe you're a painter. I mean, yesterday I was in a discussion. I was actually teaching a class in a lifelong learning situation, and I was teaching a class around stress management. And this woman, she started talking about being isolated because of COVID, and how can she feel more connected with people, because she paints these beautiful cards, greeting cards, and she hand paints these. And she said, I want to share them with people. She said, not necessarily to sell them, but I feel like I have this talent. So after the class, she sent me a few of them digitally. And I thought, oh my gosh, she could teach others how to do this, or she could perhaps set up some online account and sell them if she wanted to. But she has this great talent, and I thought, others need to see this. And I think we all embrace skills or to teach others, or at least to express ourselves in some way.
I'm a big fan of your most recent, what I think is one of your more recent ventures, your YouTube channel. I love those daily videos. We talked about this before, and they're very digestible because they're I think they're the right length. Some might say they're on the shorter side.
Oh, good.
I think they're the right length for sure. Because the topics you cover don't require 30-minute video TED Talks. They're
right.
Quick hitting and actionable, and they're good. So am I getting this right? Solo and Smart is the name of your YouTube channel?
Solo and Smart on YouTube. That's right. Yeah. Exactly. Thank you.
Of course. Carol, thank you so much for joining. Is there anything else you'd like to mention before I let you go?
Oh, just one thing. The tips that I offer on YouTube are based on my upcoming book, Subtle and Smart, coming to bookstores next year.
When next year? I'm actually looking forward to this.
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's up to my publisher. The manuscript is due in January. I suspect I'll be done with it before then. And then it's up to them if there's any re-edits and all of that. So,
would you be so kind to
hopefully
come back on when the book is ready to launch so we can discuss it?
I'd love it.
Very good. Carol, thank you so much for joining. I'm going to sign off now and say goodbye to our audience. And as I mentioned before, please learn more about Carol and what she does at the Facebook group. We'll include a link on her blog, carolmarok.com, on her YouTube channel, and make sure to keep an eye out for her book. I have a feeling it's going to be a good one. We'll see. Carol, thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Talk to you soon, everyone. Bye now.